So I wanted to go over a quick way of how a bill becomes a law. So we know that we've all watched the Schoolhouse Rock, I'm just a bill sitting here on Capitol Hill, but I really wanted to kind of talk about how a bill really becomes a law. So most bills, they either originate within the House of Representatives or the Senate. Okay, with that they originate in both the House and the Senate, they, excuse me, being that they both originate in the House or the Senate, usually means that they are drafted by either a representative or a senator. But let's think about that. First, we have a problem we need to fix. Okay, our first problem is, say that we need to put a stop sign on a street, or there's a speed limit adjustment or any kind of bill. Okay, that needs to be done. As a individual, we need to contact our congressman. Okay, this is where we kind of have our voice, where we will contact our congressman to really make our voice be heard, and kind of tell them, hey, we think there should be a stop sign. So the first thing a congressman will do is they will talk to one of their congressional aides and do a research study about that bill. Usually, like, what is the traffic implication, and they will even contact different stakeholders. This would be the roads departments, this would be county officials, anything like that, to see if maybe this is a law that we need to put into place. So after they've kind of made their decision, get the data back on if they need to make a law or not, the congressman will then take all that information and he will go meet with what's called a congressional lawyer. Now, a congressional lawyer is the person who actually drafts a bill. We have this common misconception that congressmen actually write bills. They're too busy to do this. So they will hire a congressional lawyer and he will draft the bill. And the reason they do that is because if there's any issue with this law that can be debated in court, they need to make sure it's foolproof. Okay? So after he talks to the congressional lawyer will then draw up the bill and provide it back to the congressman. Now, the congressman will then introduce it, okay, and he will either introduce it in the House or the Senate, okay, either or, the House or the Senate. Now, when he introduces it in either the House or the Senate, if it's a revenue bill that's going to cost a lot of money, it will always originate in the House. All tax bills always come from the House of Representatives, and that's because they really have the power of the purse, whereas the Senate, this is the power of, the congressional districts, whereas the House of Representatives is like the true representation of the people. And if we're going to increase their taxes, we need to know exactly, if that's going to be okay or not. So the next thing we always look at when a bill is introduced is it'll be referred to a specific committee. So in this instance, since we're doing a bill that has to do with a stop sign, this would be a committee over transportation, so a transportation committee. What they will do is they will then look at the bill, read it word for word, okay, and then they will make decisions either yes or no, okay, on that committee. They will strike out certain things in that bill, they will adjust it, and before this bill even comes out of committee, okay, it will be voted on, either yay or nay, and it needs to have a majority vote. Okay, and some committees, their sizes differ, but it just has to have a simple majority. So a 5-4. Okay, we're going to say that. A simple majority of a 5-4. Okay, once it is given to the committee, then the committee reports the bill and puts it on the House calendar. Okay, now when it puts it on the House calendar, what this is they will actually go to what's called the Rules Committee. Okay, and what the Rules Committee will then talk about is the Rules Committee will distinguish when this bill is supposed to be on the calendar. Now, if you need to get this piece of legislation done fast, you need to get a lot of people on board with this bill. You need to get the subcommittees. You need to get the Rules Committee. You need to get everybody on board for this specific bill. So let's say your bill passes through both committees. Okay. They will then do a reading of the bill. Okay, they will then read what the bill is. Okay, the bill will then be read in Congress and then debated on. This is where the entire, for this example, the entire House of Representatives will then be able to kind of put in their 2 points. So say that they had heard about this bill in committees and they really want to make their sense heard. Like, we don't need a stop sign here. Or we do, or we shouldn't be allocating funds for that special reason. They will get to debate on that. After the debate, a vote is called. Okay, a committee or a congressman has to call to a vote to see if the bill will stay alive. When they call the vote, it has to be a simple majority for that vote to pass. Now, you could have what we've heard of as like a supermajority. This would be a 2/3 vote. Okay. Now, in that 2/3 vote, if it passes, it'll get sent over to the Senate, and the Senate will then re-begin the process. So once it's passed the House of Representatives, it will then go over to the Senate and redo the same process. It'll be introduced in the Senate. It'll be referred to committee. Committee will then make their changes. It'll be voted on, sent to the Rules Committee to put on the calendar. The Rules Committee will then vote on it. Then they will read it, debate it again, and then they will Senate vote. So say we just have a 51% vote. Okay. Now this is a simple majority. In this case, it will be sent back. It'll be sent to the president. In a simple majority of 51% in both the House and the Senate, okay, say we have equal 51% between the House and the Senate, it will be sent to the president. Now, the president has the decision to veto it or sign that bill into law. Now, there are two different types of veto. There is your standard veto, where the President of the United States will say, hey, I don't like the way this bill works, and he can veto it. Or that's what's called a pocket veto. In a pocket veto situation is when both houses adjourn. Okay, say this is right before Thanksgiving break, and they both adjourn. The president, if he holds on to this bill, okay, without signing it into law, this is what's called a pocket veto. And then the bill ultimately dies. Okay, bill is dead. Okay, a couple terms that we really needed to kind of discuss is what's called an earmark. Earmark are legislative funds that will be attached to this bill. So say Congress or say the Senate says, hey, we like your bill, but we need to add, a tax incentive for people to where if they all agree to this new road, or they don't take this road, then we can issue a tax incentive to where they don't have to pay taxes on or claim their taxes. Another thing would be is if a special company is designed to build this stop sign, so we're going to call it like Jensen Construction, right? They would be included in the bill, okay? And we have to pay them $2 million just to build this this stop sign. But in that problem is a lot of congressmen don't necessarily look for earmarks. Now the question is should earmarks be abandoned when it comes to the original bill? There's a lot of debate over it, yes and no. Because in a government contract, you always have to give 3 separate bids on anything that you purchase or that you're doing or anything, okay? With an earmark, if you designate a specific construction company, specifically like Jensen Co., you don't have to do that, okay? And that's kind of where that comes from. Now, a filibuster, say you have some senators in a specific party that doesn't necessarily want to vote on this bill, so it wants to die before it gets, during this reading process, okay, we want that bill to be discouraged. Say that Republicans really want this bill to pass and Democrats don't want to, or vice versa. What they can do is what's called filibuster. And this is the practice of really talking your head off. You will talk during this debate time that they will be reading the bill, and you literally talk nonstop, and you won't let anybody else talk. You can't have a vote. You can't have anything. Okay? You literally talk your ear off. Now, the process of a filibuster is really just to kill a bill, to make it die right from the get-go. But if it gets all the way through and you've disagreed with this bill, you can use that filibuster to kill the bill, because if you lose interest or committee members walk out and you then call for a vote and you get that simple majority, the bill will die. A lot of people are kind of against the idea of a filibuster because it's just pretty much wasting time. Okay. A pork barrel, what I want to kind of talk about with this, is it involves like funding programs whose economic benefits are concentrated in particular area. So we're building the stop sign, for example, but we're going to order 20,000 stop signs. Okay, but we only need to put one in. Well, the costs are then passed on to taxpayers for that 20 million stop signs, to where if we want to build another stop sign later, we can. That's kind of what pork barreling is where you're using that revenue bill or that bill that's coming out of the House and adjusting it a little bit. Okay. If there's any questions on that, just please email me. But for the most part, this is it for our discussion today.